One of the issues that you've raised is serious shortage protocols, SSPs for short. What's the issue with SSPs? I understand they've been something of a burden in some places. Could you explain?
The problem is with the SSPs is they are nationally driven, so they require recognition of a national shortage. Then they have to go to the Secretary of State, who will determine that there is a shortage and then enable the SSP to be put in place. That all takes time, so it's not flexible or reactive as quickly as it could be. The opportunity is that we could do that more effectively. And also, SSPs are only in place for the sake of argument. They're in place at the moment because of the whole issue we've had around strep A and concerns about children and some of the deaths that have been, and therefore demand for antibiotics has gone very high. And because of the shortage that's created, they created the SSPs to be able to allow us to do that. However, what that doesn't recognise is that there are always shortages in the market. If you remember, we had shortages of hormone replacement therapy a while ago, and it took a long time before SSPs were put in place, which enabled pharmacists to make the change. So what was happening was that as a pharmacist, I get the prescription, I'd go, I'm really sorry, I don't have that one. The one that we can get at the moment is this one. So the patient will then have to go back to the GP, have to try and make another appointment, have to try and speak to them, and then they get no prescription issued. And of course, that might take a few days. And by the time they came back to me, I'd be going, I'm really sorry, but that one's gone out of stock now. I don't have that one. Now I've got this one. And it just becomes really difficult from a patient and from a doctor perspective to be able to manage that. Whereas if we had local protocols which enable us to work more effectively, we could deliver that and actually do it much more effectively. The challenge again is, in a way, what you're saying is the pharmacist takes responsibility for the decision making. So it's a bit of a stretch on the repeat prescribing, almost to be able to say, well, I can't get product X, but product Y is equivalent, and therefore I can use that to continue the care of the patient rather than having to bounce backwards and forwards to be treated.
That's interesting. Now, have SSPs been adequately communicated to everyone in the system?
When the SSP comes out, it's sent, all pharmacies are notified by PSNC that they're in place, and theoretically, all GP practices are notified to say that there are protocols in place now. However, as you know, we are so busy that, particularly from a general practice perspective, unless you're monitoring some of these things, you may not be aware that there is this in place. And sometimes pharmacists, again, for the same reason, because they're really busy, don't see the email or the message to say there is a protocol in place now that you can use. So it can take a few days even from when they're implemented for them to take effect properly. And also, depending on how the protocol works, it doesn't necessarily always solve the problem, because sometimes what we find is that you're told that if you haven't got product A, you can substitute product B. That's fine. But the problem is you then put stress on product B within the system, because now suddenly there's more demand for that. Guess what that tends to do? Creates a shortage. And therefore, you're then back to the same problem about, well, I can't get product A or product B, but I don't have any alternative about what else I can do. So I'm back to that loop of having to speak to the GP or to the nurse or to whoever is the prescriber to get it changed. So the loop just becomes continuous in a way. Whereas, again, what you want to be able to do is say, well, if I can't get product A, I can use product B in preference, but if I can't get product B, I can use product C or D. So you've got a range which enables you to be able to manage that more effectively. And that helps the patient at the end of the day, that they're not going backwards and forwards, worrying about whether they're going to get the medicines.
But hasn't the phenoxymethyl penicillin SSP been written in just this way, so that community pharmacists have a descending order of alternative antibiotics to use?
So yes, you're right. So GP writes Pen V. We don't supply it because we can't get it. So we supply whatever's next on the list. So the patient is a little bit worried, so they potentially could phone the GP because they think, oh, I've been given something different. Hopefully we've had time to explain, but even then, it can be quite difficult from a patient perspective, because particularly in some of these cases, it's medicines for children. So you think, oh, I want to check with someone, the prescriber, to make sure it's okay. So again, that puts pressure back on the GP because they're having to answer those queries. But the GP then goes, oh, they didn't have that. Oh, I'll make my life easier. So what I'll do is I'll prescribe whatever they did prescribe amoxicillin. But of course, the protocol doesn't apply to amoxicillin. So if I haven't got, you're back to the same problem. I haven't got amoxicillin, so I can't substitute the next product down in the list. So you're right. The problem is it requires the practice almost to do what they know isn't going to work, because they know that's the solution. So it's almost an oxymoron that you're asking them to prescribe the wrong thing to get the right thing.
Yes, thank you. I can see how that would appeal to a bureaucrat.
From a bureaucracy point of view, you understand the process that they're trying to do. What it doesn't do is reflect the actual practice and what's going on the ground. And there's an element of this which is about lack of trust in us as pharmacists to make the right decisions. And that's part of the problem, is you've got to start to show you trust us to do the right things and provide the right care at the right time for the right patient. And that applies for all of these things, because it's the reason, in a way, we haven't done repeat prescribing and we don't do some of the other things, is because we're conflicted. We have a problem. We're not trusted to do it. Well, you've got to start to trust us. We're clinicians. We care about patients. It's not about the money. It's about the quality of care that we provide. The money is a consequence. And in a way, it's why I go back to help us to support the right decisions. And it's for other people to work out how the money flows.
Yes, that's helpful. Maybe this is the moment to ask, where does patient-centered care fit with all of this?
I think it's really important that one of the things we bear in mind with all of this is about patient choice and what the patients and public would like to do. And as I said, one of the things, if you think about the repeat prescribing, they don't want to be traveling backwards and forwards trying to get a solution. They want the solution in one easy place. So let's find ways that the patient has that access at the point they want it, in the way they want it, rather than the way that we want to describe it. So let's find ways to help them to get the best care through the best place at the right time under the right circumstances, and to be able to support all clinicians to do that, all professional staff, and also our non-clinical staff to be able to be part of that solution. Because this isn't just about the clinicians or the qualified professionals. This is about all of the people that work in all of those environments that can help to support improved care. And what we need to do is focus from that point. And the other thing we need to do is make sure that we do genuinely build an integrated digital solution. We have to see that as part of what we do. It doesn't mean that I have to be able to write to the same record as someone else. I may write independently, but it then populates the same record. Because one of the things was, historically, they talked about, oh, well, we need, the GP record, that the pharmacist needs to be able to write to the GP record. Well, I don't necessarily need to be able to. I need to be able to see all that's in there that the patient chooses to let me see, and that's important for their care. But I may write in a different place. But actually, with today's technology, that doesn't mean it can't all go into one place. And that's what we need to see. And we need to create the opportunity that digital solutions aren't just the solution that the NHS has always seen, but actually about thinking about what technology out there is doing more generally, and using the best of that to support the best technology and the best digital solutions we can.